So the Premier League is almost upon us, and it is that time where we need to start making some predictions for the upcoming season. And this is not going to be my Premier League prediction video. However, I am going to be putting some stocks into certain players in this video today, of players that I think are going to have stellar Premier League seasons coming up, which maybe have come off the back of a bad season or just do not have that much of a reputation whatsoever. I'm going to be talking about in this video. I'm going to be going through 10 players who I think are going to have really good seasons, which maybe some people are not expecting. But just before we get into the video, if you do enjoy this content and you want to let me know to keep making it, hit that thumbs up so it also boosts the content in the algorithm, and also hit the subscribe button as well. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for everyone who's been tuning into the videos recently. But let's get straight into it. The first player for me, I'm going to be investing my stocks into next season, is going to be Oscar Bobb for Manchester City. This one is a no-brainer for me. I really thought last season was going to be the season where Oscar Bobb exploded onto the scene and everyone was talking about him being one of the best talents in world football. It didn't work out that way for him. He obviously got that broken leg injury in the first game of the season, or not even really the first game of the season because it was the Community Shield game, but he broke his leg in that game. And honestly, during the preseason and even when he played in the Community Shield before he picked up the injury, he was showing signs of being a phenomenal talent, because the way that he could dribble past people and the goals and assists that he was setting up, he was the best player throughout that preseason and he was so exciting to watch. And honestly, I was so gutted to see him have that injury, which kept him out for the entirety of last season, because as I said, I thought that it was going to be the moment he broke through onto the scene. But this season, I am very confident. Now, he has a lot of competition off that right-hand side. Savinho, Foden, Shirky, they are going to all provide competition in the position in which he plays. But I still think when he gets game time, he's going to show everyone just how good he truly is. And I genuinely believe that he is one of the best young talents in world football. Just no one's really seen it yet because he's not been able to play many games, or any games really, at Premier League level. This season is going to be his season. Bookmark it right now. And for my second player, which I think is going to very much impress a lot of people coming into the new season, is Enzo Lefay of Sunderland. And the reason why I'm so confident is, first of all, obviously, I'm a Sunderland fan, so I've watched a bit of him in the Championship last season. I'm telling you right now, if you look at his goals and assists, it might make you think that, oh, well, he's not going to really fit into Premier League level. This guy's a Premier League footballer. He is an unbelievably talented footballer. The trickery which he has in his locker, the overall ability, just technically wise, he is absolutely outstanding, and he can play in multiple positions. He can play off the left-hand side in the kind of a 4-4-2 structure. He also can play in the central midfield, attacking midfield. He's got so much to his game. He's hungry. He has a bite to his challenge. He presses really well. And on top of that, he's technically unbelievable and can strike a free kick, is really, really good at creating chances as well. His passing's outstanding. So I think next season, people are going to understand why Sunderland paid the money that they did for Enzo Lefay, because I think that this one is a no-brainer. Enzo Lefay, while he might not be one of the best players in the Premier League next season, I think he's going to surprise people just how good he actually is. But moving on to my third player, and this one might be a little bit risky to some people, but I'm quite confident in this one. Crysencio Somerville for West Ham United. A player that has not really hit the heights that maybe some people expected of him at Premier League level last season. It was quite an underwhelming season for Somerville, moving from Leeds United. But I'm telling you, what I witnessed from him in the Championship for Leeds United in that season, there is just no way that Somerville has shown what he's truly capable of at Premier League level. And I do believe that next season, West Ham, with a proper pre-season under Potter, and even if, you know, it doesn't work out under Potter and they get a new manager in, I think that Somerville is going to begin to show the signs of the player that they signed when they bought him from Leeds, because he is so quick. He's got such good ability. He's got a great eye for goal. He can create goals as well. And in the Championship in that season, he was absolutely electric. The best player in the league that season, just ripped apart the league. So for me personally, I think that Somerville is going to show everyone just why West Ham United signed him. And obviously, as I said, he had a bad season last season, but I'm investing my stocks into him next season. I see potential, and I think that there is a good potential that he has a really good season next season and gets, upwards of 8-9 goals in the Premier League, maybe 8-9 assists as well. I could see him hitting those levels. I really can. But while we're talking about a former Leeds United player, we might as well include the player that I have included in this list from Leeds United heading into this new season, a player that has thoroughly impressed me in the Championship last season, Tanaka. He is absolutely outstanding and was a big reason why Leeds United won the Championship last season. Absolutely outstanding in the midfield. He was the engine in there, and he's got a little bit of everything. That's the thing I really like about Tanaka, and that is why I'm so confident of him next season being able to translate his performances from the Championship into the Premier League, because he's kind of got every string to his bow. He's very good in terms of the defensive side of the game, in terms of he can cover ground really well, he's athletic, but on top of that as well, he can put in a challenge, he's not scared, he can cut out counter-attacks. He did a really good job of that last season for Leeds United, and obviously that is something that he's going to be required to do even more this season in the Premier League. But on top of that as well, technically, he is absolutely superb. He's press resistant in the midfield. He can beat players. He can carry the ball. So I think that Tanaka is going to impress a lot of people next season in terms of just, how many strings he has to his bow in the midfield. And I think that there's a potential that next season, or the season after this season, there will be clubs that will be looking to sign Tanaka, because I just think that he is that good, and I think he's going to impress at Premier League level next season. But moving on to number 5, and that player for me is going to be Dominic Solanke for Tottenham Hotspur, who didn't have the greatest season last season. He only scored 9 goals in the Premier League, and ultimately, I think a lot of people, for the amount of money in which Tottenham Hotspur forked out on him, were a little bit underwhelmed for the performances in which Dominic Solanke put in for Tottenham. Now, don't get me wrong, 9 goals is still a solid return for a player. However, I think a lot of people saw him more of a presser up front than a goal scorer. And I do think that this season, Dominic Solanke is going to get more joy in this Thomas Frank system. And the reason why I say that is because Thomas Frank and the way he operated at Brentford was getting players, getting the ball into positions where you're going to maximize the goal scoring opportunity, right? And to get the most amount of service to your forwards. And that's why Visa had such a good goal record at Brentford. With Dominic Solanke as the focal point of this new Thomas Frank Tottenham Hotspur side, I think that what this side is going to be very much oriented to is creating chances for the centre forward. And obviously the centre forward is Dominic Solanke. So I think that Dominic Solanke, as long as he's got his shooting boots on this season, as long as he can finish off the chances, and, someone like Matthias Tell doesn't take his spot at that striker role, I think there is a good chance that he could score 15 goals in the Premier League next season. And I think that there might be a little bit of a shift in the way that people are talking about him, because I think Thomas Frank is going to tailor the Tottenham system to him scoring goals. And for that reason, I think Dominic Solanke is going to shock people with how many goals he scores next season. But moving on to number 6, and that player for me is going to be Leny Yoro of Manchester United, a player that I am actually very confident is going to do well next season in the Premier League. His first season last season obviously didn't go well alongside the rest of the Manchester United squad, but I do feel like there were signs that he showed specifically towards the back end of the season where I think that there is a real good centre-half in there. He's technically very good, can carry the ball actually out quite well as well, but defensively as well, I saw him put some good challenges in last season, and I think that there is enough hope there with the new Ruben Amorim system. Hopefully, obviously for them, I'm not hoping, but for them, with a preseason, they're going to be a little bit more solid of a team, and they can function better with the new signings in there. I think that Leny Yoro could be a centre-half that shines, and could be a centre-half that a lot of people are talking about next season as one of the best up-and-coming young centre-halves, not only in the Premier League, but potentially in world football as well. And then for number 7, I've gone with a player that might not be expected to make it into this video. And I know, obviously, this is kind of what the video is supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be players that we don't expect to have good seasons. But regardless of the fact, I've gone with James Garner as my 7th choice, a midfielder who has had a couple of seasons now in the Premier League. Obviously, he came through the Manchester United Academy, played for Nottingham Forest. He's now at Everton. He's played a couple seasons in the Premier League now. I think that he's got the experience and the ability to be able to take his career to the next level this season. He's 24 years of age. He's only just turned 24. And he's got a wealth of experience at Premier League level. And I think that he has got a real future ahead of him, especially in an Everton side, which has made it's looking like they're making a lot of good moves in the transfer market now for the next season. We could see a very much reformed Everton side next season under David Moyes. And I think James Garner could be central to it in the midfield. And I don't know if people saw this last season, but there was a pass that he picked out that was reminiscent of De Bruyne. And I've just got that stuck in my mind whenever I think of James Garner. That might be slightly skewing the way that I am thinking about him coming into the new season. But I think he's a player which could absolutely shock a lot of people in the next season, where people are talking about him being one of the new midfielders coming through in the Premier League. At 24 years of age, I think there's a lot of progressing for him to do. He's got good technical ability, and he's a good defensive midfielder as well. So I think he could definitely do a really good job next season in the midfield for Everton and be a player that a lot of people are talking about. But moving into my number 8th pick for this video, and I have gone with a very risky pick. Wesley Fana for Chelsea, and I'm pretty sure you already know why I am calling this a risky pick, and that is because there is a good chance that Wesley Fofana gets a grand total of 8 Premier League appearances this season, because he plays a few games and then gets injured for the rest of the season. That is the story of his Chelsea career so far. However, there is a reason why Chelsea spent that much money on Wesley Fofana. He is still a very young centre-half, and if he can get across those issues, obviously, he's got of the rust coming back from injury and is able to stay fit for a full season, a massive if, but if he is able to do it, I think he has the ability to be able to start at centre-back for Chelsea, and he could be a part of a really good centre-back partnership next season, which could potentially launch Chelsea into a serious title contending team. Now, obviously, there's a lot of ifs there. Fofana is potentially going to get injured this season. I think, you'd be a foolish man not to bet on that. But I think if he can stay fit, there is a potential that he can put some really good performances together, and people can actually be talking about him as a really good centre-half coming out of the season. Massive if, he's got to stay fit, but I think if he does stay fit, there's potential there. But moving into my 9th pick for this video, and my second Manchester City player in which I'm adding into this video, is a player that has won PFA Player of the Year, so I don't know if it's going to be too much of a shock if I'm going to say he's going to have a good season next season. But the way that people talked about Phil Foden last season, and the way that obviously his performance has dramatically dropped off from the season before, I think that there's a lot of people that are calling out Phil Foden, trying to say that he is not as good as what he has previously shown, and, he's a little bit overrated of a player. I think next season, Phil Foden's going to shut everyone up. With Kevin De Bruyne now out of this team, with obviously Shirky in there, the rotations of Shirky and Foden potentially in that cam and right wing spot, I think that they could be an absolutely lethal duo, and I think Foden's going to get back to his best. I think he's going to score goals next season. I think he's going to be one of the best players in the Premier League again, and I think there's going to be so many people that are going to be eating their words from last season about Phil Foden, because he is just a magnificent footballer with unbelievable technical ability. And I just think that betting against him is absolutely ridiculous. And that's why I put him in this video, because of the amount of people that have badmouthed him last season. I think Phil Foden is going to prove them all wrong next season and put together a phenomenal campaign. And for my final pick of this video, I am going to be going with another player from a Manchester club, this time from Manchester United, a player that I think has actually been a little bit forgotten in the last season, Kobbie Mainoo. He obviously had that breakthrough season, not last season, but the season before, where he was absolutely outstanding, scoring some key goals for Manchester United at a very young age, and everyone was talking about him being potentially one of the next best midfielders in the world. Last season, we saw very little of him. There was not much hype about him. His performances weren't that great when he played, and the hype has massively died down. I think that next season is going to be the season where people start talking about Kobbie Mainoo again. There's just too much talent in that boy's shoes to be able to stay quiet for another season. And I think with Manchester United getting back to a more stable environment this season, without European football, they're going to be able to focus purely on the Premier League. I think Kobbie Mainoo could be back in the headlines again. I think he could be a player that massively impresses people. Now, obviously, there's a question of where he fits into the Ruben Amorim system. Is he good enough to play in a, 2 in the midfield for Ruben Amorim? Or is he a player that more has to play in those attacking pockets? That is something obviously only Ruben Amorim can assess. But I think that Kobbie Mainoo will make headlines again this season. I think people will start talking about his talent, because the way that he could glide past people at the age of 18 in midfield, and the way he could obviously play in the European Championships for England as well at his age, there's just too much ability that kid has, and I think writing him off for another season would be absolutely ludicrous. So I think he is going to be another player that writes his name back into the headlines next season. And that finishes off my list of 10 players which will shock the Premier League next season. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is there any players that I've missed out in this 11 which you would put in? Let me know in the comments below. But yeah, that is my 10 players which will shock the Premier League next season. If you did enjoy the video, hit the like button. If you do want to subscribe to the channel, I would be very grateful. I will have more content coming out very soon. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Peace.